SR 47.1 in high definition.
Thanks for joining me tonight. I'm Johnny Robertson. We're live here on What Does the Bible Say? We have a great lineup here for you tonight. Hope that you are interested in some of the topics that are going on in our world. I want to begin, first of all, with a couple of pictures that I have here on the screen. These are very current events, and it may be that if you've been watching our broadcast and keeping up with us, that you know that this was a very stormy beginning for two of our people right here. The pictures that we have here, a young lady in her 20s. She actually began to follow the truth, watch some of the things that we were saying, and listen to some of the lessons that we were teaching. She began to investigate and have Bible studies with us, and she then obeyed the gospel. And there's Caleb baptizing her into Christ about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And if you remember also on this broadcast station, this lady, her mother, was in fact a news item on this station. And so I want to go to a clip that I have of that to remind you of that event, because it all of a sudden is very pertinent because of some things that happened today. And I'll let you listen to a little bit of this and maybe remind you of some of the events that took place just, I believe on May the 7th is when this took place, and we're 27 days later, and I have some things to show you.
And, you know, I mean, even my years of being here, I haven't heard him hurting anybody, or, I mean...
Oh, no, he just thinks his church is a church. And he thinks if you don't go to this church, you're going to hell. It's either this church or
that's on the record. I mean, he said that on the record, but...
Yeah, but that's not so. If a preacher, he is no preacher to say that. The Bible does not say there is one church you have to go to or you're going to hell. If that's the case, these members in here are going to heaven and all of us are going to hell.
What are you going to do if you keep this up and she ends up having to get a restraining order, like to have peace? What will you do?
Now, if you remember this was an event, as I said, that took place right in front of our, actually at the back of the property on the parking lot. And what happened is we were, as I said, we had seen this lady obey the gospel, and from that we then started having, basically situations where we had back and forth with her. She would come by the building, things of that nature. And on this particular day, she was asking my daughter to babysit her daughter as she started a new job. And so it was very interesting, and we enjoyed it ourselves. And so here is a picture of her today. This is the mother, and she is in fact seen there in a very nice setting, a very nice picture, I would say, where she is being introduced into the body of Christ through being baptized for the remission of her sins in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And so she responded after the sermon and confessed that she believed that Jesus Christ was the Son of God, and you see Micah there helping her, assisting her in being baptized into Christ, into the body of Christ, or into the church of Christ, as the Bible says that Jesus adds those individuals who are willing to receive the word of the Scripture that was taught in Acts chapter 2. Those individuals who gladly receive the word and are baptized are added. And Acts 2:47 says that they're added to the church, such as should be saved. And so we're very thankful that we have that information to be able to present to you on What Does the Bible Say, and express to you how that often it is the case that we see a little bit of chaos, sometimes a little bit more chaos, and sometimes a lot of chaos. It just depends. I've been in settings where I talk to individuals that in other countries, I talk to individuals about the gospel, and come to find out in one particular setting where I was in the island, in the Carolina Islands, the particular island of Koshrai, one that we took away from the Japanese in World War II. I was there in the 90s preaching the gospel and talking to individuals there, and a gentleman that was living in Madro gave me a letter, in the Marshall Islands, gave me a letter to take to someone in Koshrai while I was over there, and I did. I took the letter to this individual, and I saw him. He's in his 70s, and I watched him as he opened the letter and began to read, and tears just poured out of his eyes. And I had no idea what was going on, and come to find out, the man in the Marshall Islands had stolen this man's wife some 30 years earlier. And the man in the Marshalls obeyed the gospel, became a member of the Church of Christ. He heard that I was studying with this other man in Kosrai, whom he had stolen his wife 30 years before. And in fact, not only had he stolen his wife, they had created a kind of like a Hatfield and McCoy situation throughout the entire island. And he and the man's wife had gone out into the bush, and they had remained there for about a month. And then eventually, my friend in the Marshall Islands left. He got shipping and just completely left the island and had not been back. He sent a letter telling this man that he was now a member of the Church of Christ and that he wanted to express to him his sorrow and ask for forgiveness because he heard that this man was studying with me and about to enter into the Church of Christ as well, and that's exactly what happened. He was baptized as well, and so they were able to reconcile after 30 years. Individuals that heard that these two men were being taught and learning about the same church, the gospel about that you read about in the New Testament, they were just amazed and said, well, this will never happen. These individuals will never get along. But this is what the gospel can do. And so I would imagine that many of you, as you watch this buzz take place on the 7th of May, you would have probably, if you had diagnosed what was going to happen or been a prognosticator, you would have said, you know, this is going to end badly. And that's kind of what Charles said. He didn't expect that it would end well. This picture was taken within a week of that event. The mother came to one of our assemblies, heard the preaching for herself, heard what we actually teach for herself. She became very interested. A series of Bible studies began to take place in their homes. And we met, Caleb actually met with their own preacher, one that had taught this young lady and had in fact baptized her into the Christian church. Caleb met with him, exposed the error that is associated with that church, and the mother was there as well, so she got to hear the error being exposed of the Christian church, the erroneous things that they teach, the places where they've departed from the Bible. And so the confidence began to grow as they began to see, for instance, a young 21-year-old man expose error of a preacher that's been preaching in this area. He's preached over in Danville. He's preached in the Martinsville area, and he could not be able to stand the inquisition, the questions, the things of that nature that Caleb put forth, and the exposing of the places where they had departed from the Bible. And so, you know, when you start seeing that, and you know, friends, that's one of the reasons why preachers will not discuss with us, is if we sit down with them, with you, and have a discussion, what happens is their doctrine is exposed. The places where they depart from the New Testament, the additions to the New Testament that they bring in order to shore up and hold up their church doctrine, we expose that stuff. And we ask the question right there in front of you and in front of the preacher, why did you do this? And there is no answer. It simply is the satisfaction of men is what the reason why people take away from the Bible, why they add to, and things of that nature. And so it is one of the worst things that can possibly happen is for one of the members of the denominations to start studying with us and then ask the preacher, would you like to sit down and us hear why you're different than the Church of Christ? Let Johnny come and sit down with you and with me and begin to show us the difference. They're not going to do it. That is the worst thing. That is absolutely not going to happen. And so I would encourage you tonight, if you're listening to our broadcast and you're thinking that, oh, well, my preacher will talk with Johnny, why do you think we've had so many problems in this area? It is people just like you have said, I will talk with Johnny. I'll talk with James Ophel or Mark or now Micah and Caleb. I'll be glad to sit down with them. Well, or I would be glad for them to come and sit through one of our assemblies, Bible classes, and then they can ask questions. And when that does happen, that's when the trouble starts. Because all we're doing is asking, why are you doing what you're doing? Why is it that you've introduced things that are not in the Bible? Why is it that you've subtracted things that God has actually said should be in the New Testament, should be in the New Testament worship and in the church? And, you know, those are good questions. Is it okay to add to and to take away from God's Word? And if your pastor is doing that, you know, really, who is he? Is he an individual that has more authority than what actually is found in the New Testament? I mean, I think everybody knows this scripture. I testify to you, every man that heareth the words of this prophet, this book, if any man shall add to these things, or God will add to him the plagues that are written in this book. If any man shall take away from the words of this prophecy, God will take away his name out of the book of life. So everybody knows those kinds of things, and I am amazed that individuals get get by with that. And when we come along, that's what we're doing, is we're presenting to you the evidence that they are doing this. And so it's exciting for us to be able to see what is taking place, and I hope that it's exciting to you. Another lady was baptized into the Church of Christ on Friday night. Her husband came to one of our tents 3 years ago. He left the Baptist church and came into our assemblies and began to investigate and listen to what was being taught. He obeyed the gospel. His wife obeyed the gospel after 2 or 3 years this past Friday night. And so I was away in Kentucky, involved in a tent meeting down there, a tent campaign where one of the young men that comes into our area and helps us, he now has a tent in on the Kentucky-Tennessee line. And so I wasn't involved in that, but I was very thankful to be involved in the one today. And so that is a piece of very interesting news, and I expect that some individuals will be very amazed to hear that that took place. And so tonight I want to begin our broadcast with, I think, something that's kind of on everybody's mind, and that is the activity that's taking place in Hollywood, in and around Hollywood, that it quickly enters into our realm as well. And before you know it, individuals are really, sometimes I don't think they're aware of just the precedents that are being set. I actually have several individuals who are being spoofed on some websites online that are changing their gender. You have a picture here of
about Humira.
I'm just letting my mind slip as far as movie stars as I was looking at them. I know that's Harrison Ford right there.
In clinical trials,
And
most adults with
right
moderate
here
severe
would be
plaque
Jay
psoriasis
Leno.
saw
He's looking like the Queen of
75%
England. And
clear,
this is,
and the majority of people were clear or
well, I
almost
can't think of his
clear
name
in
either.
just 4
I
months.
actually was seeing all the...
Humira can lower your ability to fight infection.
Or maybe not. This is Tom Cruise right here. I think this up here is Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, and for the life of me, I can't think of this guy, Dumb and Dumber. His name slips my mind, Jim Carrey. And so you have all of these individuals, and it's really a spoof, as I said. What are we going to do when all of these individuals or more individuals start coming out and saying, you know,
reactions and new
we've just been tormented in our being, and we feel that we should be allowed to have changes and our identity, our gender identity, be reassigned by a physician, by a medical doctor, and all of a sudden we're going to be, we want people to recognize, these individuals might say, well, I want to be recognized as Matilda Damon. I want to be recognized as, I don't know what a female name for Tom would be. Let's see, how about, I can't even, Tammy, let's say Tammy Cruz, and then we've got, we have DiCaprio. I don't know what we would name her, it, she, whatever. And Mick Jagger could be Missy Jagger, I suppose. And then, again, I've forgotten his name, Dumb and Dumber. All of these individuals wanting to be reassigned. Now, what will we begin to do? What are we going to do when society just starts flipping? And some say we are at the tipping point, transgender tipping point. You know, where just a few years ago, I would say in early 2002, 2003, 2004, I was actually not living here in the United States at the time, when Brokeback Mountain came out, and you had your first movie that I can remember where cowboys were depicted as homosexuals. Now, folks, when you get into the cowboy arena and you start depicting them as homosexuals and people are accepting it, you are at the tipping point. You're at the point where society, if they will accept a Hollywood version of some cowboys gone homo, then you are at the tipping point. Basically, you're at the point where everybody's accepting this. If they're accepting a movie, making it famous or popular that is depicting cowboys as homosexuals, because it's not happening. You know, that's the farthest range, it's one of the farthest ranges you're going to get in regard to this. The other would be the athletic community. It's not being accepted in the athletic community at all. Basically, the locker rooms are not a place where it is being tolerated, and Hollywood isn't getting its way. And outrage, you can be as outraged as you want to be, it's not being tolerated there. It's still looked upon as a place where individuals kind of have a sacred right not to be looked at and oogled and eyeballed by someone who's the same sex. I mean, Here you got all these guys in the locker room, and big hairy-faced guys and hairy-chest guys, and then you got one other guy that's looking at the others in a way that they're not asking, they're not accepting. I mean, in America, we're being told that we don't have the right to resist advances from the same sex. That's just ridiculous. It is ridiculous to even tolerate the idea that there isn't something wrong with a guy that's looking at another guy. Now, you can say what you want to, and you can buy into Hollywood if you want to, but there's a segment of society, they're being silent, but there's a segment of society that thinks the rest of y'all are out of your mind. And they really think you're out of your mind when we move into the segment where we're really headed, and this is Bruce Jenner. Now, folks, this was a spoof on Bruce Jenner several years ago. As these individuals were being spoofed right here, Bruce Jenner was in the lineup. And I don't even know what the website was about. I just happened to type in something about Bruce Jenner, and all of these individuals were being spoofed, and it's being made fun that maybe they're talking about transgender, and Bruce Jenner was in it. So I picked his picture out. This is not one of the pictures that has to do with Bruce Jenner today. As I say, it was a spoof. And, he was back there at that time having hormone shots and things of that nature, thinking about, before I think he married his second or third wife, he was in fact thinking about gender identity then, changing his gender identity. The guy's been mixed up for quite some time. And so, you have all of this psychological stuff that's being taught to us, being told to us, and that we're being told that we have to accept this kind of stuff. And so I think we're at a tipping point with the transgender people. But, transgender folks aren't being accepted regardless of what Hollywood is saying. And, folks, you don't have to accept this stuff. You do not have to accept the idea that because Bruce Jenner feels like he's a girl, that he is now a girl. Bruce Jenner is a mixed up, right now, freakish weirdo. Now, I don't care how you look at me or what you think about that. I'm going to continue to hold my position that I have just as much right to say that just because a man starts feeling like a woman has nothing to do with reality. And you can say, well, we just love Bruce and he is so courageous. He's not courageous. He is an individual who, if we listen to the psychological community, like some people used to hail them, he's a person who is mixed up in his basic thinking process. And we did not used to go along with that kind of thing. We didn't help them out in that way. We didn't say, well, if you've got a child, I was, in fact, in Tennessee, as I said a moment ago, earlier, and one of the little children, I don't know what show they'd been watching or what they've been doing, but one of the children was making animal sounds while we were out under the tent, and it was, in the daytime, we'd just come back from going door to door and talking to people, and one of the little kids came up to me, and they were making some sounds, and I said, well, what are you doing? And the child said, well, that's the sound of a pig. I'm acting like a pig. We're talking about a kid that's 6 or 7 years old. Now, according to the psychological babble that we're getting, when some child starts thinking that it's an animal, we should put out maybe a bowl of slop there for that child. And we should nurture this idea that the child thinks it's a pig. The child is feeling like a pig. Have you ever seen one of your children maybe watch a cartoon and it's Felix the cat or something, the little child starts meowing, meow, meow, what are you doing, baby? Well, I'm a kitty cat. Should you put a bowl of milk out and try to help them process and meld into or mold their thinking process and encourage them? Maybe they're going to be a cat. Maybe if you're feeling like you are identifying with a cat, maybe you're going to grow up and be a cat. And who knows what you can do with that? That's silly. And you think this is beyond the scope of what people deal with in the psychological field, in the psychiatry field? Absolutely not. It is not beyond the scope. Individuals think all kinds of things. We just had a guy that died lately, thought he wanted to be a tiger. He felt like that he had a tiger trapped inside of him. His identity was mistaken, that he should have been a tiger. Mark McManus did a show on that. Well, look at this. Look at the National Post. Becoming disabled by choice, not chance. Trans-able people feel like imposters in their fully working body. Are you getting this? Now, here's the amazing thing about this. The transgender community is not welcoming this news, and they're not showing any kind of like common bond towards these individuals that are claiming that they are trapped in their own bodies. Are you getting this? Individuals that claim that they're trapped in their own body. Look, we define transability as the desire or the need for a person identified as able-bodied by other people to transform his or her body to obtain a physical impairment. What these individuals want is they want doctors to remove limbs. They want doctors, they want to be a person who has a missing limb and have a some kind of maybe an arm or a leg or a foot attached to themselves, and they want to be like individuals that maybe are coming back from Iraq. Individuals want to be in wheelchairs. They want to be fully dysfunctional, if I can use that word. They want to sever their spinal cord. They're individuals that believe that they ought to be confined to a wheelchair and not able to move. Paraplegics. They believe that they have actually been denied this ability when they were born because they have fully functioning bodies. But trapped inside of them, they feel that they should be disabled. And they want all of the, you think I'm making this up, don't you? This is, you type in transable, and you will get just an entire group of individuals. You'll get news media. I'm reading from this particular news, National Post right now. Alexander Burrell, a Quebec-born academic who will present on transability at this week's Congress of the Social Sciences and Humanities at University of Ottawa. This is what he said. He said, we define transability as the desire or the need for a person identified as able-bodied by other people to transform his or her body to obtain a physical impairment. I wish Charles would call me right about now. As all of these individuals are everybody's wanting to get in tune with Brucey. I'm not about to call him his reassigned name. With Bruce Jenner, everybody's in tune with Bruce, and Bruce is so brave. How about we all feel the need for these folks? And how come the transgender community is not reaching out to these transability folks? These folks who feel just as mixed up in themselves, and they do not know why the medical community is not allowing them to have medical changes where they change their body, where they cut off limbs, they sever their spinal cord, they are able to be confined to a wheelchair. Here's one. I think this guy's name is Jason. This picture over here says Jonathan, but there's another individual here being pictured. Transgender. That's so yesterday. Meet the transabled. Now here's individuals who want to change their status from able-bodied to disabled. And for some reason, people just do not take them serious. They're not feeling their need. I mean, these are individuals who are involved in activities right now that would really stun you. I actually made a change on my computer just a little while ago, and I had a website up, and I'll see if I can find it right quick because it gave pictures, and I don't think I have the pictures up on my computer right now. And let me see if I can get a picture of somebody that is in fact been pretending for quite some time that they were disabled, and then they moved. Later, they moved, and no one knew them in the city that they had moved into, and they assigned themselves to a wheelchair, and nobody really knows the difference. I think it was in this article. Let me see here just a minute. I thought there was actually a picture of this individual that was in the wheelchair, but maybe not. Let me have a look at another one right quick, and we'll see. If you'll just bear with me one more on this, I'll look at a little bit of history here and see if we can find the lady who found her, she bought a wheelchair, and she played around in a wheelchair for a while, and then after a while she moved to another place altogether, and she just assigned herself to a wheelchair. Now everybody, I think she married a paraplegic, and everybody thinks that she is in fact a disabled person, but she's really not. She is just as well as anybody else. And so it's quite amazing when you start looking at these individuals that anybody can even say such a thing. So let's see here. This may be one of them. I don't really think it is. It's probably about Bruce Jenner, and I might have wanted to get a picture of this. This is a better shot, I think, of Bruce Jenner than some of the ones that you see on television. I'm going to enlarge it and actually move it over so that we get rid of the one. We might not be able to, but let me do it one more. Let me try one more thing here. Let's see if we can get rid of one and make sure you really see the Bruce Jenner without all the makeup. This is the real Bruce Jenner you're seeing right here, and this is without the makeup. So all of these people that were talking about how beautiful Bruce Jenner is now, are you out of your mind? Do you not realize what is going on? Do you not realize the things that Hollywood can do? Hollywood can take a regular person and make them into a gargoyle. And do you really think that they're some kind of gargoyle, or do you think that, have you seen individuals that are transformed into werewolves and vampires? Do you think that they're really, look at that. That person is really a vampire. I'm amazed at some people when they get around Hollywood, they take Hollywood's production and they say, it's really a vampire. Why, so-and-so, I wish I knew some actor's name. I don't really know any of these actors. I don't follow all this stuff like a lot of people do. But, just think of an actor that you know, and you see him on a show where he's depicted as a vampire, and all of a sudden he has these teeth. And what if you were to see that person on Rodeo Boulevard over there in Hollywood somewhere, and you went up to him and said, hey, can I see your teeth? Can I see your vampire teeth? The person would think you'd lost your mind. Do you not realize that Hollywood makes these people up? Well, this is Bruce. This is a shot of the real Bruce Jenner. I mean, we're in the exact same setting here. This is the other made-up Bruce Jenner. So what in the world is wrong with you when you think that this makeover is the real Bruce Jenner? This is the real Bruce Jenner right here. The one that I had up first is the finished product of Bruce Jenner, and it's a 65-year-old man who has had all kinds of changes, reassignments, and he feels like he is a woman now. Well, you know what, folks? I've got news for him. He's not a woman. He's still a man. You can cut, snip, and slice and dice all you want to. He's still a guy. And it is amazing to me as we get into examining what was said in the Diane Sawyer. I'm amazed that individuals have forgotten what was said in the Diane Sawyer piece with him. Charles asked me the other day if I watched that. I did. And here are some of the questions or some of the things that came out in that interview with Diane Sawyer. He isn't gay as far as he knows. Okay. Now, wait a minute. So, Bruce Jenner isn't gay. Well, why would you ask, is he gay? When Sawyer started tap dancing around the subject of his sexuality, Jenner jumped in before she had to spit out the question. No, I'm not gay. He quipped with a smile. I'm not gay. And as far as I know, I'm heterosexual. Okay. Now, if he's not gay, does that mean if he's not a homosexual, he's using heterosexual, that's one side, homosexual is the other. You can call it gay if you want to. I'm calling it what it is, homosexual. He says, I'm not a homosexual. Okay, so Bruce, you're basically telling me that you are not excited or drawn to men. You're not a homosexual. Now, you see, it's a bit confusing, but I saw it. I heard what he said. He was trying to affirm to her, I'm talking about my gender identity, changing my gender. But even if I do change myself over, he says, to a woman, and I have these operations and I look like this individual here, I'm still not a homosexual. What are you telling us? I'm not. He's saying, I'm not attracted to men. Okay. So you're still attracted to women. Sawyer raised a brow as she asked him to clarify what he meant by that, but he didn't seem the least bit bothered. I've never been gay. I've always been married and raising kids. Okay, so Bruce, you've never been gay. So you change your gender, you feel like a woman, but you still look at, wait a minute, when you tell me that you're a woman, you should be looking at men. You should be drawn to the opposite sex, but you're a woman and you're still looking at women because you said you're not a homosexual. And what he was in fact doing is he hadn't had his change yet. He was still a man. I mean, if you saw the Diane Sawyer piece, he's still, this is Bruce here. We hadn't changed to this other person who he thinks he is, thinks she is. I mean, you see how this is going? So at this particular point, he had not changed over, and he said, I'm not attracted to men, so you're attracted to women. So here you are now, and you're dressed up like a woman, but you're still attracted to women. So what are you doing when you get around women who don't know that you're a man in a woman's body who is not a homosexual? I mean, try to explain that. Here you are, you're a woman. You're a man. You're in a woman's body. You've had a gender identity change. He's gone so far as to have a sex change and reassignment. And so you got to get all these phrases right for all your politically correct people so you know what I'm talking about. But then when we get into the homosexual part of it, who knows what we're talking about? He's now a girl, he claims. He's a girl trapped in a man's body. Now he has a woman's body, but he still doesn't look at men. So he is, in fact, attracted to women. And so he's in the confines of the woman's world now. And listen, folks, I don't know if you know about women, but when women get together and they're, say for instance, they're in a store and they're talking about buying things and they all end up trying on dresses and whatnot. You know what? Women are just like men in locker rooms when they're changing, or even men sometimes are in settings where you're changing clothes and whatnot. You're rushing into something or whatever. And so men are not worried about that. And women are not worried about that. But Bruce is in there with them. And Bruce has already said he's not a homosexual. He's not attracted to men, so he's still attracted to women, but he's in a woman's body with the women. And what's going on with Bruce? Well, Bruce is still mixed up, folks. And all this emotional babble about, well, don't you realize all the suicides that take place with these people that are trapped in the wrong body? My friends, have you done the research? There's more suicides that take place after sex transplant or gender assignment than there were before. The incidence of suicide on the other side is no better than suicide on the one side. And you know what that demonstrates? You look it up. That demonstrates the people are psychologically messed up. And changing their gender does not change the psychological problems that they already had. Folks, think about it. A person who thinks that they're a woman when they are in fact a man is a mixed up person. And when you're a mixed up person, you don't really know who you are. You think you don't. You think that you should have been born into a woman's body, and then you get some doctor to do that for you. It doesn't change the fact that you're mixed up. You're still mixed up. And when you get into a woman's world and you're still a man, you're still mixed up. You don't know how to respond to the way women respond and the things to which they are bothered by and things of that nature. You're still a man. And no amount of changing you around is going to change you into a woman. Are you going to grow ovaries? Are you going to be able to bear a child? Are you going to, are you going to start producing milk in those breasts? No. You're still a man. And you were a mixed up man when you're in a man's body thinking you're a woman, and you don't want to assign yourself to the realms and atmosphere of a man. You think that by being a woman somehow or other that'll change your responsibilities and make everything better. No, it doesn't. You're still a man. You just got a woman's body now. And you're just as mixed up, and these folks are just as mixed up, and they're just as mixed up as these trans-able folk. Can you imagine being so psychologically mixed up that you want to cut off your arm so that you can have a limb put on, a prosthetic limb put on? I mean, we look at that person. Is anybody listening to me tonight that says, oh, well, these people that want their limbs cut off want their spinal cord severed so they can be completely disabled? They'll be a paraplegic? Oh, there's nothing wrong with them. I know if I said that to you and I started talking about their feelings, how they're trapped in a able body, they're trapped in this able body. They're able to function in ways that people in society function. They're able-bodied individuals, but they so feel that they need to be disabled, and they need to have their arm cut off. They need to have a leg cut off. They need to have limbs amputated. One guy dropped a humongous block on himself, on his leg, trying to destroy his leg so that the doctor would cut it off, and he could be an amputee because he felt like it was just tormenting him that he was an able-bodied person and he wanted to be a disabled-bodied person. Now, do you have all kinds of compassion and feelings for this individual that they ought to be allowed to have their legs cut off, their spinal cord severed, and the state, your funds, start taking care of those individuals so that they can now be fulfilled, that since they're disabled? Bruce Jenner's disabled. Bruce Jenner is not a woman, he's a man. And now have you read any of the transcript about the panic attack that Bruce Jenner had after his gender reassignment? All of these operations that took place? He had a panic attack in which he was saying, what in the world have I done? This stuff is irreversible. How are you going to get back to being whatever he was? You see, he's been mixed up so long that this guy is completely confused. Now, one of the things that's happening right now, folks, and you get to thinking about this, you look at what's taking place, this guy is making all kinds of money. My understanding is they made $15 million last year just talking about the possibility of the fact that he's going to have gender reassignment, that he's trying to turn himself into a woman. Now there's talk about him being a $500 million woman for cosmetic individuals that are, well, you saw this other picture. If they can make him up every day or for shoots, and make him look like $1 million here, look like a woman, then, hey, he can sell all kinds of cosmetics. But the truth of the matter is, sometimes, folks, at some point, the makeup has to come off. And when the makeup comes off, this is the real Bruce Jenner. He's a 65-year-old dude that's had all kinds of plastic surgery and reassignments, and he's now trying to look like a woman, but he's still a guy. Take the makeup off, and this guy, whatever Bruce is trying to prove, this individual is not going to be happy. He is not going to be satisfied. What are we all going to do when this Bruce Jenner ends up killing himself? Are we going to say it's people like, it's my fault? Y'all didn't accept him as a woman? Are you accepting your child? You know, you see one of these kids watch Jurassic Park, and the next thing you know, they start acting like one of these prehistoric animals. Are you supposed to study up and try to figure out how to treat a prehistoric animal so that you can get ready to allow your child to change into that, however long that's going to last? Well, what if, you know, some of these prehistoric animals on Jurassic Park were actually ripping all kinds of things apart and eating that stuff. You see, this is ridiculous. You're calling me ridiculous about right now, but you know what? It's the individuals in our society that are being ridiculous. And it leads to these kinds of questions. He says that he considers himself asexual for now. Are you getting this? Are we really going to tolerate this kind of stuff in our society? Individuals running around claiming, I don't know which sex I am. I haven't made up my mind who I'm going to look at. Well, I'm not a homosexual, so I'm not going to be. He's not going to be looking at men. So you're going to turn this dude loose with the women? I think he needs to stay in Hollywood because he probably would have some pretty serious trouble if he starts mixing in flyover middle America where people don't put up with his kind of goofiness, individuals who don't know what kind of sex he is, and he's dressed up like a girl, but he's in fact a guy. He's got a guy mind. He said to Diane Sawyer that he's still got a guy mind. So what in the world? I mean, where are you going to assign this dude? Where are you going to put him? I say you put him maybe in a hospital until you can get him fixed. That's what, you know, psychiatry does not say that you further this mentality. You don't try to, when individuals are in a psych ward and they're having delusional thoughts, you don't like role play with them delusionally. You try to get them not to do that kind of thing. Now, I'm wondering what individuals would like to say. What does the Bible say?
Sounds like Sodom and Gomorrah all over again.
We're headed down a very slippery slope, no doubt about it.
There's no doubt in my mind about it. Everything I've read about it said we're headed in that direction. You know, you were talking about the psychological problems these individuals have. All of these people, it's deeply rooted in them and has been for quite some time, but it's a real form of mental illness.
Well, think about this.
Doctors have tried to treat a lot of it for years, and sometimes they have some success and sometimes they don't.
Well, you think about this too. Bruce Jenner was a gold medal winner, and he's not satisfied with himself. What does that tell you?
He has tremendous emotional problems, psychological problems, what it tells me.
Okay, what about this, though?
That's the way I view it.
All right, what about this, though, as an alternative thought? All of the things that the world says that if you accomplish these things, it will satisfy you and fulfill you to the nth degree, does it sound like maybe they're mixed up?
Oh, yeah, they're definitely mixed up, yeah.
So winning a gold medal doesn't solve all the problems in the world?
Oh, no, money, no, it sure doesn't.
All right, so
that was wonderful that he did all of that stuff and received all those. But for some reason or another, I can't quite figure out where his mind changed and he thinks he needs to be a woman. So I think that's what I say, there's some type of psychological problem he's developed over the years. Is it because he's been surrounded by so many women? They've got so much attention. They've made so much money. I don't know the answer to that personally.
Well, I know that if a person is trying to be comical, if you think about who he's with the Kardashians. I mean, what would you do if you were surrounded by the Kardashians all the time? Just, maniacs, really, self-centered individuals that can't make up their mind.
They'll do anything for a buck.
Yeah, and
if you watch that show just at least a little bit, I'll refer to them as the Kardashian whores myself.
Yeah. And what do they do
That's the way I look at them.
What do they do to a man's psyche? I mean, when you're around women like that are so self-centered, they're not satisfied with any of the things that God would say are satisfying. Generally, don't they take the masculinity away from a man?
I would think so. I think that's part of his problem.
All right.
He's been surrounded with them too much, and it overwhelmed him, and so now I guess he thinks he wants to be a woman to get in the limelight, maybe.
Well, also, you're old enough.
No.
You're old enough to remember back in the 80s. I would say it's around in the 80s where psychiatrists and women were saying that men should get in tune with their feminine side. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I very well remember that. Yeah.
And then what happened? Men started acting like women, kind of wimping out, and all of a sudden the women, they weren't satisfied with what they had created.
That's about right in a lot of cases. Yeah.
So
some of them went too far as being sensitive. They desensitized themselves. They lost their masculinity.
That's right.
So to speak.
That's right.
And did all kinds of crazy stuff. That was cosmetics that came out about 10 years ago for men. You could buy belt leggings. A lot of men were wearing cosmetics.
I laugh about it because, I mean, what else do you do? Because it just seems like we're not making any headway. Okay, we appreciate your call.
Oh, yeah. Take care.
All right, folks. I know that there's a host of individuals out there that are similar to the gentleman who just called in the sense that we recognize what's going on. So let's look at this. He considered himself asexual. Now, here is a Kentucky bill that, now, this isn't friendly, and I have a little spot here where I kind of block out the way that the media tried to make this guy look. And he looks fine right here to me, but the way they tried to make him look was like he was about to chomp down on somebody with his teeth. And the media tries to do things like that. They try to demonize an individual. And so I'm just trying to make him look just as normal as he probably is. New Kentucky bill targets trans kids using, look at this, in quotes, wrong bathroom with a $2,500 bounty. Now, as I said, this website is the Daily Beast. It is not friendly to this activity that's taking place in some of the states. And it says that, let me just see, let's read some of this. Kentucky Republican State Senator C.B. Embry has sponsored a bill that would effectively put a bounty on transgender students who are caught using, now look at this, they have it in quotes in the Daily Beast, wrong gendered bathroom. Students who catch their trans peers using the facilities of their chosen gender will be entitled to sue the school for $2,500 worth of damage relating to psychological and emotional damage. Now let's read the rest of this. The bill would require students born male to use only those facilities designated to be used by males, and students born female to use only those facilities designated to be used by females. Well, how terrible. That's so terrible. Isn't this terrible? If you were born a male, you have to go into the male bathroom. This bill in Kentucky demands that if you're a boy, you go in the boys' bathroom. And if you happen to be a girl, that you stay in the girls' bathroom. How horrible with these bigots over in, I'm using sarcasm, folks, these bigoted individuals that live in Kentucky. You know, they've got all kinds of jokes about how far in Kentucky you have to go before the sun rises, or some of these backward people. They don't know that you're supposed to make an extra bathroom for the individuals that don't have sense enough to know if they're a boy or a girl anymore. Listen, folks, don't be falling into this political correct language. Are we going to let America change right in front of us? Are we going to allow individuals that are involved in this psychomania, are we going to allow them to change the way we think? You're on What Does the Bible Say?
Hey,
Yep.
Johnny, I just wanted to ask you, a few weeks back there, you said that Holger Neubauer and Steve Baisden were denominational false teachers,
Yes.
and they challenged you to a debate. I was wondering when we're going to see that.
Probably same time as I have a debate with Gallimore, who's married to 3 women. Would you like to see that debate?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, we got a guy over here, one guy who teaches that he can marry as many of the women in the congregation where he is as he wants to, and the congregation goes along with it. And he's been wanting to debate me for the last 15 years. But, you know, he's kind of a kook, and he's the only one of his kind, and I just decided that, you know, he really doesn't have anybody listening to him, following them, and neither does Steve and Holger. Are you one of their followers?
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't really know, but, you know, seeing how you never back down from a debate.
Oh, I'm back
kinda
down
looks
from
like
debate.
you have.
I'm back down from debate.
It makes me think that, man, Johnny's going to back down from these guys. They must have something. Johnny must not be able to beat them, or else you would.
That's the only alternative.
That's what I think.
That's the only alternative you have, is I don't debate somebody, so therefore you decide that I must not answer them. That's the only alternative your mind will come up with?
I think that Holger Neubauer would spank you.
And so basically you've got 3 guys, Holger, Scott, and Steve, and nobody's listening to them. They don't have an audience, and they need mine, and you think that I should give it to them. Is that what you think?
I think that you should back up your posture of being the man and not being afraid to debate anyone, and these guys come to you and challenge you. I
Okay.
think you should debate them, yeah.
All right, here. Well, I'm glad that you think that you know what our policy should be, but I tell you what, if you will give me your address after the show's over, I'll send you an audio of one of the members at. So really, they're not anybody that I think needs to be answered. There's 3 guys with a false doctrine about the world not going. Do you believe that the world is not, this world, this earth is not going to perish? That it's going to just be here forever and ever and ever?
You know, I really don't want to get it. I don't know enough about it.
Okay, I think I'll let you go then.
You know, I really don't want to get it. I don't know enough about it.
Okay, I think I'll let you go then.
You know, I really don't want to get it. I don't know enough about it.
Okay, I think I'll let you go then. This guy doesn't want to answer the first question. I think I don't want to answer. Well, sir, if you don't want to answer, why should I answer you? Good luck. And so, folks, don't be fooled that these 2 guys that spent the majority of their time talking about me rather than expressing their doctrine, that's what we wanted them to do. We wanted them to give us 4 hours of something new, something usable, that would demonstrate to us that they had anything beyond what Max King did. And they didn't do that. They spent a majority of their time talking about Johnny Robertson. I'm sure everybody wanted to hear Johnny Robertson 37 times in about 20 minutes in one of the interviews they did. Is that really what people want to hear? People want to hear their doctrine. They didn't tell their doctrine. Now some guy wants us to give them time to give more about their doctrine. They had 4 hours. You know what the Bible says.
Hey, I'm sorry, my phone got...
Oh, I cut you off. When you said you didn't want to answer me, then I basically decided that I didn't want to answer you. So isn't that fair? I asked you one question, and the guy says, well, I don't want to answer. And I just got a text from Caleb, and he reminded me, Sheikh Noradeen. Y'all remember the Sheikh? I never debated the Sheikh either. Let me see if I can get my hard drive out here, and we'll give a picture of some of the kooks that have challenged us to debate. And my posture, as this gentleman said, was such that we're the man. I never debated Sheikh Noradeen. James Oldfield had him on one time, and the guy sit down in the floor here in the studio and acted about like Holger and Steve when they came to so-called visit with their good friend Johnny Robertson. Now, this guy wanted to debate us as well.
You can't
Yes, sir,
record
what
my
the Bible
voice,
says.
I'll sue you.
Hello,
Don't
Johnny?
record my voice, I'll sue you, boy.
These guys, look at this guy right here. He wanted to debate us as well. Here's one of the
Put the voice on.
individuals that we declined to have anything to do with. Now, he said the same kind of stuff. You're the man. And these boys probably all want to line up from this particular mindset. Yes, you're on what the Bible says.
Hi, John. This is Jim.
Hey, Jim.
I don't know if you recall. It's been a while, but when I first made contact with you,
Yeah.
for the broadcast, I was willing to come on and debate, and you asked me who was I affiliated with, and these kind of questions, and I was new to the area and affiliated with no one. But we did debate. You came to my house, we debated for several hours on several different evenings, and I was proven wrong. And what I'm getting at is, if the gentleman called him before, why doesn't he debate? Why doesn't he have one of the preachers come over and debate the doctrine that he believes, if it's based on Holger or whoever else, and debate to see who is correct using the Bible?
You know, if I remember correctly, too, Jim, you were involved with the Seventh-day Adventists. You had previously been involved with Seventh-day Adventists. And I actually met one of the teachers. Is that not right?
Yeah.
I spent about 4 hours with him and several of the church members answering them. And the reason why I opted to do that is because this individual was a reputable teacher in this area. He was not some little fringe group that no one was listening to, like Gallimore and like the Sheik here. And so, you know, in my mind, he was someone that was, in fact, changing people's minds and a threat. These guys that are calling in from Michigan, they don't have anything going. They need Star News. They need our platform. And I think the Sheik did too. He was begging, dying for a debate, offering to pay.
Well, my point being, on one hand, if someone just wants TV attention, that's one thing. But if you're willing to discuss and debate with a person individually to show what is correct or be proven wrong yourself, it doesn't have to take place on TV.
That's exactly right.
It with me, and that's our goal, to study the Bible, debate the Bible with anybody at any time.
Well, as far as these guys are concerned, too, can you see what their real agenda is? Their agenda is to diminish Johnny Robertson. They had 4 hours to teach their doctrine, and what did they do? They spent 3 hours and 15 minutes of it talking about me. And so that's kind of like this guy right here. I consider them basically as guys who don't have anybody listening to them, and they need our platform, and so we're just not going to give it to them. And the guy that I talked to, that was a great clip. Did you hear what he just said? When I asked him if he believed that the world, our earth, is never going to perish, it's just going to continue to go on, it's just set in place, and this is just forever. And he said, I don't really want to get into answering that kind of stuff. So, hey, I love that.
Well, thank you.
All right, thanks for the call. All right, the guys from Michigan, they're still trying, and so we think, as I said, I did not debate Elwood Gallimore. I didn't debate the Sheik, and these guys are not really individuals that we want to spend any of our time on. And so, you know, whether individuals will recognize that that's the truth or not, I can't help that. So let's use the few minutes that we have left. I want to show a couple of things that individuals are trying to present, and this is one of them. The bill would require students born male to use only those facilities designated to these individuals that are males. Now, is that really that bad for these folk? I mean, is this a bully tactic? New Kentucky bill targets trans kids using the wrong bathroom. Listen, folks, it is the wrong bathroom. I ask you, see, this is the battle that's ginning up here. I ask you, do you want boys in the bathroom at school with your little kids? This is further evidence that the school system is taking the side most of the time. You're trying to get these individuals that are off on this wild agenda, trying to facilitate kids who think that they're the opposite sex. I mean, when you're a kid, seriously, people are letting their kids, are they letting them go through this? I mean, why don't you just tell your kids, look, you're a boy or you're a girl, and stay out of the other kid's bathroom? You know, why do we even have to have laws? I'll tell you the reason we have to have laws, because we got some mixed up parents. The parents are mixed up, and the kid comes in, and the kid starts telling the parents that I think that I'm a girl when I'm really a boy. Well, I think you better stay out of the bathroom with the girls because you are a boy, and parents ought to tell them. Embry says that he has no problem with trans students, adding that they certainly welcome to live their lives as they choose. If they want to dress as the opposite sex in school, then the school is okay with that, and that's fine. In his mind, you have to draw a line somewhere, and that somewhere is the little male and female signs on the bathroom. Because, God forbid, we educate kids on what it means to be transgender. Are you hearing this? This kook that is writing this article says, and God forbid that we educate kids on what it means to be transgender. What does it mean to be transgender? It means that you're so mixed up that you think you're a girl when you're really a boy. And then you go through all of these sex changes in order to facilitate this kind of thing. And is that really going to solve your problems? Well, maybe if you give $500 million to these individuals, it might help them a little bit. But this guy's so mixed up that he can't be good with himself after having won a gold medal. And here he is many years later. He's married to the Kardashians, or involved in the Kardashian dynasty, and he's a mixed up individual. And we're supposed to change the bathroom situation in our schools because these folks are all mixed up, and Hollywood is wanting to give him one of the most prestigious awards that they can think of to reward him for all of this stuff that he's involved in? I don't think so. And I think that we ought to applaud the Kentucky school system. The Daily Beast goes on to say, and yet to protect the fair ladies from the new lavender menace, pathetically ignorant legislators have introduced bathroom bills. Are you following this, folks? They are calling individuals who want to protect fair ladies from the new lavender menace. You know what the new lavender menace is? The new lavender menace is boys dressed up in girls' clothes. And those of us who want to protect our fair ladies from these individuals, they're saying we are pathetically ignorant, and our legislators are pathetically ignorant, and our legislators have introduced bathroom bills in Florida, Kentucky, and Arkansas. You know what? I'm thankful for Florida, Kentucky, and Arkansas, and I wish we had more legislators like these individuals so that we could be able to protect our fair ladies. You can joke about it if you like. But you know what, folks? Here's what you need to do. I encourage you to tell your friends about our YouTube site, Bible Says TV. You'll be able to see good Bible teaching on there. We have Ustream also, What Does the Bible Say with Johnny, 2012, 2013. And you can see several of our broadcasts there. You can call any one of us on our cell phone. Mine is 276-806-2150. Micah's is 434-429-5221. And Caleb, I think, I thought I had his up. James O'Field's is 276-340-2653. And Mark McMinnis is 434-770-8412. Folks, we begin our tent meeting this next week. It's going to be at the intersection of North Main and 29 out by the Armory. I don't have a picture of it up tonight. We should begin really advertising in earnest this next week because we begin on next Monday night. Not this Monday, but next Monday night. We will be in Danville again with our tent, and we will be teaching the gospel, inviting you to come out. We'll be going door to door and trying to encourage individuals to participate with us. We always want you to ask for, what does the Bible say? We appreciate you very much. God bless you and good night.
Views expressed on this program do